Welcome everyone to the first session of online lecture on microeconomics. I'm going to start off with chapter number 5, which is elasticity and its application. For the time being, I'm going to rely on recorded lectures. I do realize कि अभी सब जो है students enter नहीं हो पाए इस particular system में, which is Microsoft Teams software. तो दैट इज़ वाई मैं अभी जो है लाइव सेशंस की तरफ नहीं जाऊंगी. अब मैं रिकॉर्डेड सेशंस भी रिलाई करूंगी. द वे दैट वी गोइंग टू प्रोसीड इज कि ये जो मैं लेक्चर्स हैं वो पार्ट्स में मैं रिकॉर्ड कराया करूंगी. मे बी आई एम टू स्टॉप आफ्टर 20-30 मिनट्स. सिंस ये सिस्टम मेरे लिए भी नया है, इसलिए मुझे आई हैव टू स्टॉप आफ्टर अ व्हाइल टू सी कि वेदर रिकॉर्डिंग हो भी रही है या नहीं. रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर का ये थोड़ा सा नुकसान होगा कि आप लोगों पे काफ़ी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होगी कि टू लिसन टू दीज लेक्चर्स एंड टू कीप पेस विद मी, बिकॉज मैं ये लेक्चर्स अपलोड करती रहूँगी वक्फन. तो आपको जो है ना, यू हैव टू कीप पेस विद मी. अपने रिकॉर्डिंग्स जो है ना अपना खुद से रूटीन सेट करनी है, टाइम टेबल सेट करना है, और ये रिकॉर्डिंग्स जो है आपने सुननी है. अगर कोई फ्यूचर में मसला पैदा हो, इफ यू वांट एन इंटरैक्टिव सेशन, सो ऑफ कोर्स वी कैन अरेंज दैट. लेकिन अभी सिंस स्टूडेंट्स के मसाइल चल रहे हैं विद रिगार्ड टू द सिस्टम, आई एम नॉट स्विचिंग टू द लाइव लेक्चर्स. Okay, so let's just start with chapter number 5, elasticity and its application. If you remember, I was able to cover part of this chapter in our actual sessions that we were having in the university. लेकिन खैर अब थोड़ा सा राब्ता हमारा टूट गया उसके बाद, तो इसलिए मैं जो ना आपको थोड़ा सा रिवाइज कराऊंगी हमने क्या चीज़ कवर कर ली थी, और उसके बाद जो है ना वी गोइंग टू मूव फॉरवर्ड फ्रॉम देयर. इस particular session में I'm going to switch between the PowerPoint slides and the handouts which I've already given to you. The reason why I had to switch to the PowerPoint slide is because इसमें बहुत सी चीज़ें हैं जो कि मैंने handouts में skip कर दी थी, ये सोचते हुए कि वो मैं बोर्ड और क्लासरूम में एक्सप्लेन कर दूंगी. लेकिन अब सिंस वो फैसिलिटी नहीं रही, तो I would like to have more comprehensive material which I can deliver to you people in this online medium. So रिविजन के लिए मैं जो हूँ ना अभी फिलहाल आई एम गोइंग टू स्विच टू my handout. So let me just do that. I'm just sharing my screen at this point. So ये handout 3 आपके सामने आपको नजर आ रहा होगा. ये जो है हमने जो है इसकी जो स्टार्ट तो हम इसको कर लिया था हमने चैप्टर, लेकिन खैर आपकी याद दहानी के लिए एक दफ़ा दोबारा जो है ना लेट्स जस्ट गो ओवर इट क्विकली. इलास्टिसिटी जो है इट्स अ मेजर ऑफ हाउ मच बायर्स एंड सेलर्स रिस्पॉन्ड टू चेंजेस इन मार्केट कंडीशंस. Okay, so मुख्तलिफ तरह की elasticity होती हैं. The first kind of elasticity that we studied was the price elasticity of demand. This basically measures by how much quantity demanded of a good responds to change in the price of that good. So in simple words, price elasticity of demand measures the responsiveness of a buyer to changes in price level. ठीक है, अगर price change होगी तो जो consumer है, how will he respond? ठीक है, by how much will his demand get affected? So the way you calculate the price elasticity of demand is as follows. दो तरीके हैं. एक is this approach. So price elasticity of demand is simply the percentage in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. Or you can use the midpoint approach, which is represented as follows. Okay. We did a couple of examples in class which helped you, grasp this, the two approaches for calculating price elasticity of demand. So we also studied that there are a variety of demand curves. We have an inelastic demand, elastic demand, and then we have the unit elastic demand. जो inelastic demand होता है ना, that means कि quantity demanded does not respond strongly to changes in price level. So price elasticity of demand in this case is going to be less than 1. Whereas elastic demand में क्या होता है कि quantity demanded बहुत ज़्यादा responsive होती है to even small change in price level. So here the price elasticity of demand is assumed to be greater than 1. And lastly, we started about the unit elastic demand. Here the quantity demanded responds equally to changes in price level. I think at this point, it's going to be more beneficial if I switch to the slides. So let me just go back to the main interface and let me just upload the slides for you people. Okay. Okay, this may take a little time, but just hold on. Okay, so you're again seeing the PowerPoint slides on your screen now. Okay, so in this particular chapter, we're going to try to answer these questions. What is elasticity? What kind of issues can elasticity help us to understand? मैंने आपको क्लास में बताया था कि elastic जो होता है, मतलब all of you have seen elastic, you apply a force and elastic stretches. तो elasticity का concept more or less same ही है कि अगर कोई external stimuli apply हो उस particular band पे, तो वो कितना stretch होगा, किस तरह respond करेगा to changes in that external stimuli. So furthermore, we're going to answer the question, that is, what is price elasticity of demand? How is it related to the demand curve? How it's related to the revenue and expenditure levels? So all these questions are going to be answered in this particular chapter. What is price elasticity of supply? How is it related to the supply curve? So इसके अलावा भी हम और भी बहुत तरह के elasticities पढ़ेंगे, income and cross price elasticity of demand. So elasticity जो है, it measures how much one variable responds to changes in another variable. That's the basic idea. So this is a small example which is given in front of you. So one type of elasticity measures how much demand for your websites will fall if price of your if you increase your price level. So this is referred to as the price elasticity of demand. कि आपके जो demand of your software या demand of your website पे कितना असर पड़ेगा when price of your website increases. So definition of elasticity is, a general definition है, elasticity is a numerical measure of responsiveness of quantity demanded or quantity supplied to changes in one of its determinants. अगर प्राइस के तब्दील होने से हम डिमांड में चेंजेस देखना चाह रहे हैं, दैट इज रिफर्ड टू एज द प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड. अगर प्राइस के चेंज होने से हम सप्लाई में चेंज देखना चाह रहे हैं, तो दैट विल बी रिफर्ड टू एज द प्राइस इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ सप्लाई. अगर इनकम के चेंज होने से हम डिमांड पे उसका असर देखना चाह रहे हैं, दैट इज गोइंग टू रिफर्ड एज द इनकम इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ डिमांड. ठीक है, एंड सो ऑन. So price elasticity of demand is as follows. It measures how much quantity demanded responds to changes in the price level, and this is the formula for the price elasticity of demand. It's the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. So loosely speaking, it measures the price sensitivity of buyers' demand. Okay? In simple words, it's simply measuring कि कितनी sensitive demand है to changes in price level. So this is a small example. वैसे हम ऐसे बहुत से examples class में कर चुके हैं, लेकिन since ये slides मेरे सामने आ गई है, तो I'll just go over it again. So here what you can see is that here price is increasing by 10%, and as a result, quantity demanded is falling by 5%. So price elasticity of demand is going to equal 15%. Sorry, demand में 15% की कमी आ रही थी. So in the numerator term, you're going to have 15%. In the denominator term, you're going to have 10%. So this equals 1.5. So what does this 1.5 mean? इसकी interpretation क्या है? इसका मतलब ये है कि अगर प्राइस में 1% इजाफा होगा, तो डिमांड में 1.5% कमी हम देखेंगे. So along the demand curve, P and Q move in opposite direction, which would make price elasticity of demand negative. So we will drop the minus sign and report all price elasticity as positive numbers. ये मैंने आपको point class में भी बहुत emphasize किया था कि price elasticity of demand is always negative. So it's very hard to keep track of that negative sign all the time. So that is why most of the time we report price elasticity of demand in its absolute terms. Okay, so in this particular slide, they've actually shown you how to actually calculate the price elasticity of demand. So the standard method for computing the percentage change is as follows. It's the end price minus the start price divided by the start price. So in this particular example, let's suppose the price is increasing from $200 to $250. So let's suppose you're going from A to B. So the percentage change in price equals 25%. The percentage change in quantity, it falls by 33%. So elasticity is case में is 1.33, which basically means that here we are dealing with an elastic demand. तो देखो ये एक तरीका है for calculating the price elasticity of demand. And what you see is that if you move from B to A, then वही procedure अगर आप इस्तेमाल करेंगे, the elasticity will turn out to be 2.5. So आप देख सकते हैं ये जो standard technique है for calculating elasticity of demand गलत नहीं है, लेकिन it is a little problematic in the sense कि अगर मैं price elasticity calculate करूँ assuming that I'm moving from A to B, तो मेरी elasticity जो है ना turns out to be 1.33. But if I assume that I'm moving from B to A, then the elasticity turns out to be 2.5. So the elasticity is going to be different for depending upon whether I'm moving from A to B or from B to A. So in order to resolve this issue, we tend to use the midpoint approach for calculating GDP, for calculating price elasticity of demand. So midpoint approach में ये फिर problem जो है ना, it gets ये problem arise नहीं होती. इसमें हम करते ये हैं कि end value को हम subtract करते हैं by the start value and then we divide it by the midpoint. ठीक है, जो standard formula था उधर जब आप percentage change calculate कर रहे थे तो denominator में you were dividing it by the start value, remember? So the midpoint is the number halfway between the start and end values, or it's also the average of those values. So it doesn't matter which value you use as a start and which value you use at the end. Your answer would remain the same either ways. So you can also verify this. वही example को अगर आप सामने रखें, and if you calculate the percentage change in price using the midpoint approach, it turns out to be 22.2%. The percentage change in quantity, it will now turn out to be 40%. So elasticity जो है ना, it's simply the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. That is 40 divided by 22.2. This gives me 1.8. So if you're using the midpoint approach, then it doesn't matter whether you're moving from A to B or B to A. Answer will turn out to be the same, which is 1.8 in this particular case. All right, so this is a little example for you, which I think you can now do on your own. So let's suppose the price of a hotel room is $70, and if that is the case, demand is 5,000. As price increases, demand decreases to $3,000. Now, it should not come as a surprise कि price के बढ़ने से demand क्यों कम हो रही है, because हम law of demand में पढ़ चुके हैं कि that the demand curve is downward sloping. So if the hotel rooms, they become expensive, the demand for hotel rooms is going to decrease as a result. So using these values, you can calculate the price elasticity of demand. So percentage change in demand turns out to be 50%, percentage change in price turns out to be 25%. Here we're using the midpoint approach, and the price elasticity of demand equals 2%. Okay. So, this अभी तक जो slides आपने देखी हैं, you've learned what is price elasticity of demand, and how do we calculate the price elasticity of demand using the standard approach and then using the midpoint approach. दोनों approaches से आपको familiar, you should be familiar with both approaches, and you should be able to calculate elasticity using both the approaches. Now coming to the determinants of elasticity. देखिए कुछ प्रोडक्ट्स की डिमांड इलास्टिक होती है, कुछ की इनइलास्टिक होती है. वी आर लुकिंग एट द रीजंस व्हाई दैट इज द केस. To learn the determinants of price elasticity, we look at series of examples. Each compares two common goods. So in each example, suppose the price of both goods rises by 20%. The good for which quantity demand falls the most has the highest price elasticity of demand, which you have to figure out which good is that and why. So now I'm going to show you a series of examples. ठीक है, I'm going to show you a series of examples जिसमें दो pairs of goods आपको given होगी, and you have to figure out कि कौन से product की demand ज़्यादा elastic होगी, price elastic होगी. Okay? So first example is Rice Krispies versus sunscreen. तो आपने assume करना है कि दोनों products की price 20% increase हुई है, and then you have to figure out कि कौन से product की demand में आप ज़्यादा कमी देखेंगे. जिस product की demand में आप ज़्यादा कमी देखेंगे, that product will have an elastic demand. Okay, so first example is Rice Krispies versus sunscreen. ठीक है, Rice Krispies is something like cornflakes. ठीक है, जो आप breakfast में खाते हैं. I would suspect that Rice Krispies, since it has a lot of substitutes, it's going to have a more elastic demand, whereas sunscreen will have a more inelastic demand, क्योंकि sunscreen के कोई इतने खास substitutes नहीं है. अगर आप sun rays से बचना चाहते हैं, you have no other alternative than to apply a sunscreen. Okay, so ये चीज़ यहाँ explain भी हुई है in your slides. Rice Krispies has a lot of close substitutes, so there are a lot of other brands as well. Pakistan में brands का नाम थोड़ा सा मुख्तलिफ होगा. So buyers can easily switch if price of Rice Krispies increases. Sunscreen, on the other hand, has no close substitute, so consumers would probably not buy much less if price rises. So हमारा जो है ना conclusion ये है कि price elasticity is higher when close substitutes are available, and price elasticity is going to be lower if substitutes are not available. अच्छा, दूसरा जो example है ना, that's an example of blue jeans versus clothing. Now, मैंने आपको बताया था कि elasticity also depends upon the definition of the market. Now, blue jeans is a very narrowly defined market, whereas clothing is a broadly defined market. So I would suspect that blue jeans, since it's so narrowly defined, या तो मैं blue jeans पहनूं, but I can also wear other things. I can wear a shalwar, I can wear a pant, I can wear maybe a short. So so blue jeans के ज़्यादा substitutes होंगे. Therefore, I suspect that blue jeans is going to be more elastic. Clothing, on the other hand, is so broadly defined. Clothing के substitutes मिलना मुश्किल है. इसलिए clothing will have a more inelastic demand. ये चीज़ यहाँ लिखी भी हुई है कि अगर आपने ब्लू जीन्स नहीं पहनी तो आप खाकीज पहन सकते हैं, शॉर्ट्स पहन सकते हैं, स्पीडोज पहन सकते हैं। Whereas क्लोथिंग जो है ना इतनी ब्रॉडली डिफाइंड मार्केट है कि यू हैव टू मतलब it's you can hardly think of a substitute for clothing, right? So price elasticity is higher for narrowly defined goods than for broadly defined goods. The third example is insulin versus Caribbean cruises. Now, what can be the relationship between the two? Insulin जो है ना, it's a necessity. For diabetic patient, insulin जो है ना, it's a necessity. Caribbean cruises जो है ना, it's for sure a luxury item. If you have a lot of money and time, then you can go on these world, cruises. So insulin की demand, because of this logic, is going to be more inelastic. Caribbean cruises will have a more elastic demand. Okay, so the same thing is written over here. I need not go over it again. The lesson is important. That is, price elasticity is higher for luxuries than for necessities. और आखिरी एग्जाम्पल जो उन्होंने दिया हुआ है वो है कि change in gasoline prices in the short run versus gasoline in the long run. So if the price of gasoline increases by 20%, demand of gasoline would it decrease more in the short run or in the long run? देखिए, short run में मसला ये है कि there is not much that people can do in the short run other than ride the bus or carpool. Short run में इतना टाइम ज़्यादा नहीं होता to find alternatives or to change your habits. Whereas in the long run, people can buy smaller cars or live closer to where they work. So in the long run, you can suspect that demand of gasoline में ज़्यादा कमी आएगी because you have plenty of time to change your habits, to find alternatives. So the gist of my argument is that price elasticity is higher in the long run than in the short run. So this is just a summary of what we've discussed so far. So price elasticity of demand depends upon the extent to which close substitutes are available, whether the good is necessity or luxury, how broadly or narrowly the good is defined, and lastly, the time horizon also matters. Elasticity is higher in the long run than in the short run. Okay, so ये जो आपके पास चार आपको points नजर आ रहे हैं, they help you explain why some products have a more elastic demand whereas others have a inelastic demand. Now, there are a variety of demand curves. Economists classify demand curves according to their elasticity. The price elasticity of demand is closely related to the slope of the demand curve. The rule of thumb here is that the flatter the demand curve, the bigger the elasticity, the steeper the demand curve, the smaller the elasticity. And that makes perfect sense. So I'm going to show you now a series of demand curves. So in the first diagram that you see over here, this is an example of a perfectly inelastic demand. This is one extreme. यहाँ हो क्या रहा है कि let's suppose initial price P1 है. Now let's suppose price falls to P2. So this is a 10% decrease in price level, but as a result, quantity changes by 0%. So if you plug this information in the formula that you see on the top, you can see that the percentage in quantity is 0% divided by 10% change in price. So price elasticity of demand will turn out to be 0. So this is one extreme जहाँ price जितनी मर्जी कम ज़्यादा हो जाए, demand टस से मस नहीं हो रही, it's going to stay the same, which is Q1. Now let's go to the second example. Now here, what you see is, you see a very steep demand curve. So हमने rule of thumb अभी पढ़ा है, the steeper the demand curve, the more inelastic it is. यहाँ भी आप analyze कर सकते हैं कि if the price decreases by the same 10%, quantity is increasing by less than 10%. या आप देख सकते हैं कि quantity में जो इजाफा आ रहा है ना, वो कदरे कम है as compared to decrease in price level. So जाहिर सी बात है कि price elasticity of demand will trace out to be less than 1. So here we have an example of an inelastic demand. Now unit elastic demand जो है ना, ये एक बीच की एक स्टेज है. यहाँ हो क्या रहा है कि अगर प्राइस में 10% कमी हो रही है तो डिमांड में भी 10% इजाफा हो रहा है. So price elasticity of demand in this case turns out to be 1. You can see that from the top formula on top of your slide. But unfortunately, पावर पॉइंट स्लाइड्स में मेरे पास पॉइंटर की फिलहाल ऑप्शन नहीं आ रही है, क्योंकि मैं सिंस पावर पॉइंट स्लाइड से डायरेक्टली प्रोजेक्ट कर रही हूँ, इसलिए जो है ना यू हैव टू फॉलो थ्रू व्हाट आई एम सेइंग राइट नाउ एंड देन क्लोजली लुक एट योर स्लाइड्स टू सी कि मैं किस चीज़ को अभी एक्सप्लेन कर रही हूँ। इलास्टिक डिमांड में क्या होगा कि वही 10% डिक्रीज इन प्राइस will be followed by more than 10% increase in quantity. So you can clearly see that the green arrow, it's much bigger than the orange arrow. So as a result, price elasticity of demand, which you can see from the top formula, it will turn out to be greater than 1. So this is called an elastic demand. अब हम दूसरी एक्सट्रीम पे आ जाते हैं, which is called a perfectly elastic demand. इसमें क्या होता है कि डिमांड कर्व इतना फ्लैट होता है कि इट बिकम्स अ स्ट्रेट लाइन, अ स्ट्रेट हॉरिजॉन्टल लाइन। सो यहाँ हो क्या रहा है कि P1 पे हम जितना मर्जी जो है ना डिमांड कर सकते हैं। यू कैन आइदर डिमांड Q1 यूनिट्स ऑफ द कमोडिटी और यू कैन डिमांड एनी अदर यूनिट्स ऑफ दिस कमोडिटी, लेकिन अगर प्राइस इससे थोड़ी सी भी इंक्रीज कर जाए तो इलास्टिसिटी इज गोइंग टू फॉल टू 0। तो डिमांड इतनी ज्यादा सेंसिटिव है टू इवन अ स्मॉल चेंज इन प्राइस लेवल। एट P1 यू कैन एंजॉय any amount of this commodity, but if price increases even by 1 cent, 1 पैसे से भी अगर जो है ना आपकी प्राइस इंक्रीज होगी तो डिमांड विल फॉल ऑल द वे टू 0। So you can see here that change in price is 0 and quantity में किसी भी मिकदार की चेंज जो है हम देख सकते हैं। So whenever a positive number divided by 0, that turns out to be infinity. So infinity basically represents that demand is extremely sensitive even to small changes in price level. Okay? So this is an example of a perfectly elastic demand. Okay. Okay, let's continue with the next slide. It's elasticity of a linear demand curve. Now, what you see on the screen is a linear demand curve. It's a downward sloping demand curve. Linear demand curve की खासियत ये है कि it has a constant slope. Yeah, the slope of a linear demand curve is constant, but its elasticity is not. And you can verify that. If you're moving from 30 to 20, using the midpoint approach, you can calculate the elasticity, which turns out to be 5. And when you're moving from 20 to 10, your elasticity, if you calculate it, it will turn out to be 1. And if you move from 10 to 0, ठीक है, अगर आप price जो है ना आपके price पहले 10 है, now it's 0, your elasticity will turn out to be 0.2. So how strange is that? You have a constant slope, but the elasticity is it's not constant as you move along a linear demand curve. So you just have to keep this point in mind. Iski application jo hai na is going to come later when we study monopoly. Again, for the time being, you should know, or you can verify for yourself that if you have a linear demand curve, as I move along the linear demand curve, elasticity is going to be it's going to change. In the top portion of the demand curve, the elasticity is going to be, the demand is going to be more price elastic. In the middle portion, the price elasticity of demand is going to equal 1. And in the lower portion of the demand curve, the price elasticity of demand is always inelastic. It's less than 1. And this is always the case. आपको मैं कोई भी demand curve दे दूँ, आप बेशक verify कर लें कि in the top portion of the demand curve, आपका जो demand है वो elastic होगा, and in the bottom portion it's going to be inelastic. Okay, so I'm going to end part 1 at this point. Most of ये जो आज का ये जो मैंने आज पढ़ाया आपको ये revision ही थी. In the next part, we're going to start off with the sections that we are supposed to cover next. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording at this point in time.